Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. I'm Nate Houghton, co-founder of Incendium. Welcome to this week's Growth Accelerator. As you can see, I'm on location at the scenic Newark Airport today. This is not a bit. This is just a scheduling snap that we have. But fortunately, we have Chris Booth here to help us through this if I do pop off. But Chris, thanks for joining us. Love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your work, and then we can dive into some growth stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Super excited to have the chat. So my name's Chris Booth. I run an organization called Charm, and we like to refer to what we do as kind of almost like a holistic go-to-market offering. And we're really focused on a few different things. And our goal as an organization is to own the funnel. And we kind of, we follow what, as I would suggest, definitely no original idea here, but we're huge fans of the idea from Winning by Design in terms of the bow tie model and how they view the full go-to-market, journey as starting at marketing and maybe not ending, but kind of having one of its final points at service and the operations. And so currently today, we offer, and our elevator pitch is that for any sales and service team, we'll provide your staffing and your systems, and then very finally, your workforce management. And ideally, we get to a point someday where we also own marketing, and we get this full journey from marketing to sales to service, and we become a one-stop shop agency for anyone else that wants to, export out those services. And so that's where we are today.
Awesome. And I will apologize for the background announcements, which hopefully add a degree of authenticity. But I think one quick thing, Chris, I guess, just if you have like the two-minute version of how did you get here? How did you start doing this?
Yeah. So years and years and years back, like when I was 4 years old, my parents didn't want to buy me, probably like 5 or 6 years old. My parents didn't want to buy me Super Smash Bros. So I went into the backyard and I started picking grapefruit off of the tree and going door to door every freaking day, literally every day, going door to door to the neighbors going, hey, buy my grapefruit. And they're like, dude, you were here yesterday. We don't need this much grapefruit. And it was hilarious because obviously like all the neighbors on the street they loved it. And, after a couple of weeks I had gotten, and this is hilarious, man. And not, a small detour on the origin story here, but it's just hilarious. And I remember going into Best Buy, like vividly, one of my memories as a child, and dumping my bag of change and my few dollars and all of this on the stand as the woman's looking at me going, oh my God, you little kid. Yeah. I literally remember $48, like the exact number, all of it. But that was where the entrepreneurial journey started. And through the years, I've done tons of stuff, building, all types of businesses from, home service businesses to really kind of the one where I would say that I started to earn my stripes and become, I think, having something to really offer and not just kind of raw passion is when we started building you could view it, probably the easiest way to put it is as a SaaS tool. We built a company called Tipsy, which had this really cool dashboarding feature on a back end. It had this really awesome app on a front end. This stuff all interacted, allowed vendors to see actions from the consumers and all of this cool stuff. And, this is the type of thing, it's always funny, the perspective as time passes where it's like 2025 is like, yeah, okay. I mean, you could go into one of these tools and pop that up in, a week maybe. But I'll tell you, back then it was like freaking darn awesome. And, we were working really, really hard on that, doing a lot of really cool stuff. So ended up building a cool SaaS tool. We sold that off with a team of 4 guys, which was, 3 other guys besides myself, 4 gentlemen. And moved out to San Francisco, got involved in, that whole VC startup space, worked as an EIR for Tim Draper. And then from there, I'll tell you, actually, being pretty open here is that after we had sold the tool, I moved out and, was EIRing. I had lost a lot of the fire for startup stuff that I'd just been so inundated with like for years and years and years. I was like, what else is there? I had given up, or not given up, but I had basically gone separate on my path from doing like a physics and astronomy degree. And now I'm doing, startup land. And I'm kind of like thinking about, oh man, I'd love to be doing astronomy, like observation and all of this stuff. And so I was kind of, I'll tell you, I had roommates and friends that are going out to all the networking events. They're, really living it and loving it. And I was like sitting in my apartment all day, like just working in this tool called Dialogflow, nothing to do with astronomy or physics, but at the time it was called Dialogflow. It was this like low code, no code thing that Google rolled out for like machine learning, natural language processing libraries where you could like plug in different chat flows and stuff. And again, it's hilarious with the perspective, like today, this is like 2 + 2. Then it was freaking awesome. And so I was messing around in Dialogflow, I think 2016, 17-ish, and then started just, realizing, hey, this chat stuff's kind of cool. Like, it's, simple, I guess. You're not really solving world problems, but I kind of lamented that I come from a family of what I'd refer to as uber nerds, and they are all awesome at, programming and all of these things. And I'm sitting there going, damn, I never got into programming, and I built this SaaS tool. Like, it's kind of cool, but I did very topical on that, and so started getting into that low code, no code stuff. And I was like, oh, this gives you that same serotonin as when you see everything coming together, but I don't have to go super deep into the code. I loved it. Ended up meeting some awesome people that saw the value in it. As I was just kind of like, hey, I think this is cool. Do you see value? And from there, just parlayed relationships. As they're like, dude, you got to show this to this guy, and then that guy says you got to show this to this guy, and then over time, you meet awesome people like yourself. And yeah, that's kind of the journey. And I'll say, just to tie it together very quickly, is that that service, that kind of those chat bots ended up being something where they're going, Chris, why aren't you doing like a service offering? And you could basically use the bots as the front line. You can have staff, you could build out this thing and come and do it for me. And I was like, I don't know how, but I'll figure it out, as many of us say. And I parlayed into, okay, well, service. And I kind of started coming back to that, well, let's do something grand. And that's why we had on sales and all of this.
Yeah. And I think it's yet another example we've seen on Growth Accelerator a couple of times of market pull versus market push. And I mean, you and I both have experiences where we were so sure of something and we just tried to force it on the market and it wasn't going to take. But when somebody's like, no, seriously, take my money. Like, I really want you to work on this thing. It kind of doesn't matter if it's software, if it's service, especially now. It sort of works itself out in the end. But one thing I wanted to get to very quickly with you, just because I know you spend more time thinking about this than most people I know, is some of the very specific ways that you've seen the overall platform that makes it easier to build product, whether that be AI or otherwise. Like, how has that affected the different stages of the work that you do? Obviously, there's a lot of top of funnel stuff we've seen, and I know you're very proficient in some of those, which people might want to hear specifics, all the way through to CX. I'd be curious to hear your perspective, especially over the last 12 months of what's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're lining me up here, teeing me off here, because as do pretty much everyone, whether you know it intimately. I'm sure you're aware and experiencing it. You see all of this stuff going on, the velocity in terms of the tools that are appearing and the new things you have to do. It's just, there's a new thing every day. And so, yeah, I'll share, in terms of our sales process and how we offer clients and all of, that, let me actually take a quick step back in that. I'll just prompt you that it might not be that a client we work with needs the holistic experience from their marketing to their sales to their service. And we do have clients that we do all of that for them. But for someone, and, I'll kind of portion this out, that if someone does want to, take this holistic thing, we are going to use a foundational tool. And this has not shifted very much. And I'll share, we might suggest something like Salesforce or something like HubSpot, but a lot of the actions on those tools, like, for instance, maybe sending emails or dialing or connecting with someone over social media, those have evolved tremendously. And so, I'll share, and not to get too into the weeds, and Nate, feel free to guide me, because, I'll just go forever, is that, well, we view internally kind of, there's three parent groups of things currently that we're looking at automating and or just using this AI or new tools and the context of. And we, you'll see this in the sales language referred to as the triple tap. It is, again, to kind of restate, it's the dial, the email, and then the social outreach. And I'll share today, we're deeply confident in terms of the text-based automation. And, we're huge fans, and I'll shout out, my love for Clay here. No secret whatsoever. I think we're all becoming huge fans of it, but deeply in love with Clay. We use this as something of an engine for a lot of the written channels that we explore. It's wonderful in terms of marrying all these APIs together, helping generate custom, personalized, relevant text to that person. But
quick aside on Clay, do you think someone needs someone like you to help them with Clay, or do you actually think people can learn it? What's your opinion on that?
Absolutely. Clay is something you can absolutely learn by yourself. And what I'll share with you is it's that it tends to be, and I can get on into a very deep personal opinion on this here, and that the things that a client or someone might pay you for are tradecraft. Things that are hard to learn are the secrets of the industry. And the way I would posture this to clients or people that are interested in this type of stuff constantly is that, so we view, whenever we're building a campaign, there's essentially three houses. There's the actual campaign design. What words are we saying? The leads, and then the infrastructure. That's it. So we need to have the things to send. We need to have the people to send it to. And then what are the words we're saying? Well, I'll tell you that a lot of the SaaS tools that exist today, of course, they're incentivized. They want you to know how to use their tool. Clay has an academy that if you go to Smart Lead or Instantly, they have it's on guides. They do office hours. They want you to know how to use those tools. But the things that are hard and that you need to have a lot of experience and time in the system and meet people, I would tell you it's the infrastructure, because Google and Microsoft and Azure, all these people, they're not posting guides on how to send 1,000 emails to your TAM every day. They don't want you to do that, in fact. And so that is the hard part of all of this. And that's what I would suggest. That's what you need to. If you want to accelerate, that's what you should look for some help on. Now, as you know, Nate, this is something that you can absolutely, yes, find an expert. And I'm hard pressed to say that there's many experts in terms of Clay. There's a lot of people that are getting good at it. There are definitely some experts, but it's something where it's that you can absolutely get to a wonderful baseline level in just a few days, a few weeks of consistent usage. You can start doing things that I would say you're pretty darn proud of. And it would be that you're probably shrinking a horizon of a month or two to a couple weeks or a week if you bring in an expert. Not at all necessary, but I definitely think, there's just so much forward-facing information. You just don't need it at this point.
That makes sense. I'll let you get back to your kind of triple crown, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of bringing that back into that triple tap idea there, triple crown, I like that though too, is that basically, we're deeply confident, as I believe a lot of folks are, that the written channels today are wonderfully, AI-able, to turn it into a verb, that we can do a lot of really cool stuff. And that's because, well, I'll share, there's the absence of these dynamic components. Tone, cadence, all these different things. Well, yeah, I'll share at least today, and I'm not an AI expert, but seemingly those are much harder to simulate and replicate than just a written, a string of text. There's no tone. Yeah, there is some tone, but it's not, in the same way that your voice has a cadence. And what do you know about that?
It's less something someone else is saying versus a one-directional play.
Yep, exactly. That's a great way to put that. Yep, there's this back and forth as well, and we're dancing. And so, I'll share that when it comes to the phone, and then when it comes to that vocal side of things, that I'll share, I'm not personally enamored with any of the automation options that exist. There's a lot of promising automations. There's a lot of cool stuff. And I'll say I'm confident. I am deeply confident we will get there. I'm not confident that we're there yet. So what we tend to do internally is that we kind of stop at parallel dialing, and we, staff our dialers. And then we marry that with that automation. And, we then put that probably on a platform like HubSpot, or, I know some folks are fans of kind of more of these mini CRMs as well, like Limlist potentially, which it helps you marry some of those tasks, or Log Growth Machine would be another one that's getting popular right now. But it's that, yes, we'll use those tools to unify all of that automation. And then that would be for our sales. And that's not even touching on service. And, I'll share, I think service kind of got the first deluge of all of the generative excitement. Because if we look at the Y Combinator cohorts, I want to say it was the first one of 24. So many of them were customers. So the one that Yuma was in, Yuma.ai, and you have all these just I'll share on the service side of things, all these phenomenal co-pilots, and you get into a bunch of differentiated stuff that you can have co-pilots, you can have actual agents, you can have a marrying of the two, and this would be something that over on the service side of things we're automating just in terms of, hey, responding to tickets. But the fun one for the folks that are, maybe here for more sales oriented stuff is that very often a lot of folks start off their service journey, or the way they think about service, as this is a revenue retention vehicle. It's something I have to do. I need to check a box. I've got to do it. But the reality is, anyone that's done customer service will tell you, dude, you can make money with your service department all day. You can make money. And I'll tell you, to kind of demystify this, it's very darn simple. We have a whole structure, we do 5 A's, or the heat method, and all this. And I'll tell you, there's really 2 A's in our 5 A's. The last 2 we'll just zoom in on. And we tell every agent, when you go through your process, that you got to do 2 things right at the end. you need to have a piece of advice, and you need to tie that piece of advice to an ask. And so, for instance, we can imagine that someone calls in and they go, hey, your pH that you sold me is peeling the plastic off of my hot tub, and I need help with this. And well, maybe our sales team has aligned with our service team and they've said, hey, if someone says that their plastic is peeling, we have this really cool special type of pH that we can sell and we want to, so you should suggest it. So what does the service person do? They say, hey, I'd love to give you some advice on context of the pH that you purchased. What I think might be more appropriate for you is this product. And the ask, could I connect you with an expert that would be able to tell you more? And we know we're connecting them with a salesperson, but all it is really simply that if you want to take something actionable out of this, zoom into your sales team. What advice are we giving? And what ask have we tied to that piece of advice? Really simple. So Nate.
I assume B2B and B2C, similar
Yes,
type of advice.
absolutely. And, I'll share, there are so many especially in B2C land, when it comes to upselling different AI tools that look at your history and then suggest things. Oh my goodness. We use, a whole array of stuff like that. Also, even it's gotten as far as, I'm thinking of some gentlemen that have, really kind of blown up with order editing, just a really simple little app, but it helps you also, or it helps the business and the customers, but it helps the business suggest that when someone goes to edit their order, hey, why don't you edit it with this item instead? And guess what? It's an upsell. But people love it. And you'll see all over LinkedIn, they're saying we're generating millions and millions in additional revenue for all of our clients. And so, we do a whole suite of that type of stuff as well. And so you can kind of piece together that it's like, okay, we do the sales, we've automated a bunch of stuff there. We then close that individual. We have them in HubSpot. We're now tracking and scoring every interaction. Now they're engaging with our service, and our co-pilots are pulling in data from HubSpot or whatever database, Airtable in some cases. And now it's suggesting things. It's helping the agent service that individual more appropriately for their need. Yeah.
And stepping back and looking at your business, you guys do so many different things at different stages of the funnel. Is it typically the case that somebody walks through the door with a clear understanding of a problem for you to solve, or do you have to do a lot of that discovery? How does that tend to work?
Yes. So
and this is mainly advice for other service-based businesses if you're trying to get started on this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So I'll share, it is very rare that someone knows what they actually need. They think they know what they need, but this is why asking questions, discovery, this whole thing that we kind of have just accepted as a thing we do, it is so darn important that yes. And this is true. I'm sure I'm guilty of this, that I'll see a tool that I'm like, oh, this would be so wonderful for us. I have this problem. I'm sure it solves it. And I get into the call and they're like, you don't have that problem that you think you have. And Nate, you probably have seen some of that just in our consultation. Like, Chris, you're viewing this way, but actually it's this way. And well, there you go. And so what I would say is, what I would say is, why I tripped up there is because we have an agenda as well in these calls that not only do I want to address this person's problem, their pain, but I also want to show them all of the other things just to get them their ideas sparked. And so when I go into this discovery, of course, I am asking a bunch of these questions, diving in, finding out, do you truly know what your problem is? But largely, I think to answer the question, it is that we do a lot of educating, because people aren't, and it's kind of one of these things I'd say, Nate, I'm very guilty of, is that we are so inundated with this every freaking day. It's from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, I'm thinking about this. And you get into this kind of headspace where you go, well, if I know this and it's 2 + 2 for me, it must be for everyone else. And so it would be that maybe, I had amazing individuals join calls, like C-levels of Fortune 500 companies join calls, and I'm going, this is how we send a cold email. And they're going, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like the most simple freaking thing ever. And yeah, so I would say very rarely does someone come in and they go, I need this, I need this, I need this. I want you to do this way. And I go, oh, wow, that aligns exactly with what we do. And I think you need that.
That would be nice, actually. Yeah, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And, kind of to connect some dots, that's one of the reasons that your list, your prospecting, your ICP, all of that is so important, because I don't want to take junk meetings all day. And, that's kind of one of the things that I would encourage people to scrutinize, was when you see someone booking a ton of meetings, doesn't necessarily mean those are the best meetings, because booking a meeting is, I would say in quotes, it's easy. Booking a good meeting, that's definitely a level, a magnitude, maybe harder. And so, yeah, it's one of those reasons we want to drill in and make sure that I'm, really selecting the right prospects. So they have already, to some degree, gapped some of that education that might be necessary.
Cool. I'll keep this relatively brief today, just given my in-transit schedule here. But curious if you have any final advice, particularly for people who might want to start a company like Charm. Like, what are some of the big challenges that you might not have expected when you were a little younger?
Yeah, so Nate would share that, this is one I think we're probably asked very often by people that are interested in starting a business. And, it's hilarious. And maybe I don't need to think of a unique answer because it is the truth. And yeah, there are no variations of the truth. And what I would tell you is truth is absolute. The truth of this is, all that freaking matters, and you've heard this, is resilience, the cockroach mentality. How terrible can things go for you? How wrong can so many different things day after day? And you wake up the next day and go, man, I can't wait to do that again. I'll tell you, that is non-negotiable. It's have to have it. You have to be aligned with that. And if you can, wonderful, because you will outlast any person that's tall, smart, lucky, all of that, because they all, and I'll tell you, say align very often because I get asked all the time, Chris, can you guarantee me these results? I go, I will not guarantee you either. I'll guarantee you that things will go wrong. That's what I'll guarantee you very often, because that's it. That's the only truth in this is things break down, things go wrong. And I will build a plan. I'll minimize my risk. But this is, to speak to, you have to have this resilience. And what I promise you is that things might break down, but I'm going to show up every damn day to figure it out. And I'm never going to quit. So if that's a good enough answer for you, then sign and let's rock. And so, I would just say resilience.
Yeah, not to be too gimmicky, but I've lost a client on that escalator, believe it or not. So I think and I was okay. So I think it's a good reminder. I think about it every time I go down that escalator.
Oh my gosh, no way. That's hilarious. That is so cool. Well, cool, but yeah, absolutely, man. You have to be able to have those talks. And very honestly, this is one of the most, you have to have your heart, your hopes, your dreams sometimes get stomped on by people that you love as well, that you're like, man, I respect you. I really want to just do right by you. And you have to be able to have them look you in the face and go, you failed me, man. We got to cut this short. I apologize. And you got to wake up the next day and go, cool, I want to do it again. And that's it, man. It's really that simple.
Just like the grapefruits, Chris. That's good. Great reminder. Thank you for the advice. Really appreciate it. And thanks for joining us. Hope everyone has a good rest of your week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Nate.
See you later.